The Velthari ambassador's voice crackled through every speaker on the ISV steadfast, like the sound of breaking crystal. High Emissary Zorath had delivered many ultimatums in his 300 years of diplomatic service across the Galactic Concord. He had made star nations kneel. He had watched proud civilizations reduce themselves to client states just to avoid the gray horror of Velthari military attention. He had never, in all those centuries, received the response he received from the human named Eli. "Let me make sure I understand you correctly," said Commander Eli Marsh, leaning back in his chair on the bridge of the steadfast, arms folded, expression utterly calm. "You want us to surrender our outer colonies, dismantle our deep space fleet, and submit to Concord oversight, or you'll deploy the Velthari Suppression Armada." "That is correct," Zorath said. "You have 48 of your hours." Eli glanced sideways at his co-commander, Chloe Vance, who was already pulling up star charts on her secondary display, eyes flicking fast across the data. She gave a small, quiet smile, the kind she always wore when a problem had just become interesting. "Ambassador," Eli said, "I want to give you something important before you leave." "A surrender document?" Zorath asked. "A piece of advice." Eli leaned forward. "Go home. Pull your armada back. Because if you send them, if even one Velthari warship crosses into human space, you won't be fighting our fleet." Zorath's bioluminescent crest flickered with amusement. "Then what will we be fighting?" Eli's eyes were very still. "Everything else." The Velthari did not go home. They arrived at the edge of the Kepler boundary 46 hours later. 230 warships, the pride of the Concord's enforcement arm, arranged in a suppression formation that had broken a dozen civilizations before humanity had even discovered fire. What they found waiting for them was not a human fleet. It was something worse. The readings began coming in slowly, then all at once, and Zorath watched his tactical officers go rigid at their stations. The data didn't make sense. The biosignatures were wrong. The mass readings were wrong. The behavior was wrong. "Emissary," said senior tactician Valshan, her voice stripped of all its professional composure. We are detecting organisms. Biological entities. Thousands of them. Emerging from the fourth planet's atmosphere." "Define organisms," Zorath said. Valshan's mandibles clicked. The sound she made next was not a word. It was something closer to a prayer. "Leviathans," she whispered. The humans brought their Leviathans. What the Galactic Concord had never understood about humanity, what every species failed to grasp until it was far too late, was this. Humans had not conquered their world by being the strongest creature on it. They had conquered it by making friends with the monsters. The Leviathans of Earth's deep oceans had been old when the dinosaurs were young. Vast, slow, intelligent in ways that had no translation in Concord xenobiology. Not sapient in the way humans were sapient, but aware, profoundly and terribly aware, with memories that ran back to when Earth's continents were still one unbroken mass. They had watched the small, warm-blooded things crawl out of Africa. They had watched them build fires, then cities, then rockets. And somewhere along the way, some human had slipped into the water and said hello. It had taken generations. It had taken sacrifice and patience and the slow, aching work of learning a language made of pressure waves and magnetic pulses and the deep harmonic groaning of tectonic plates. But humans had done it, the way humans always did things, stubbornly, stupidly, beautifully, until the Leviathans of Earth had understood something fundamental. These small creatures were ours, the same way a reef is owned by the creatures that call it home. When the first Velthari probe had mapped Earth's oceans 3 centuries ago and declared the Leviathans non-sapient megafauna, they had made the gravest taxonomic error in Concord history. Chloe Vance stood at the observation window of the steadfast and watched them rise. She had coordinated this. Months of careful work, of deep channel communication, of translating the Velthari ultimatum into pressure wave harmonics and feeding it down into the dark where the old ones dreamed. She had explained what was coming. She had asked. She had not commanded. "You did not command Leviathans." "You asked." They had said yes. 16 of them breached the upper atmosphere of Kepler, 4D, the ocean world where humanity had seeded the first colony of transplanted Earth megafauna 20 years ago. Each one was longer than a Velthari destroyer. Each one moved through the vacuum of space the way they moved through deep water, with a slow, unhurried authority that made the warships look like toys. The lead Leviathan, a creature Chloe's team had designated Blue 7, but which called itself something that translated roughly as the memory of the first deep, turned one vast eye toward the Velthory Armada. The Concorde's most advanced sensors could not fully resolve what they were looking at. The Leviathans existed in electromagnetic spectra that Velthory biology had never evolved to perceive. They cast signals, not language exactly, but something that pressed directly against the nervous system, and every crew member on every Velthory warship felt, simultaneously, a single wordless sensation. Leave. Zorath sent the first attack wave anyway. He was not, after all, a coward. The suppression beams hit Blue 7 and scattered. The energy dispersed across a bioelectric field that the Velthory had not known existed and could not have designed a weapon to penetrate. The Leviathan did not appear to notice. It turned, very slowly, and exhaled. In deep ocean, a Leviathan's exhale could create a current that reshaped continental shelves. In vacuum, channeled through bioorganic structures that had evolved over 400 million years, it became something that no Concorde physicist had a name for. 3 Velthory destroyers tumbled out of formation like leaves in a storm. The Leviathan did not pursue them. It simply waited. "They're not attacking," Valshan said, her voice strange. "Emissary, they're not attacking. They're displaying." Zorath understood then. The humans hadn't sent weapons. They had sent a message, written in the oldest language in the universe, the language every predator understands in its bones regardless of what planet it evolved on. "We are larger than you. We are older than you. And they are ours." Eli's channel opened again. "Ambassador Zorath," he said, and his voice was exactly as calm as it had been 48 hours ago. "I want to be very clear that none of this was our first choice. We tried diplomacy for 11 years. The Concorde ignored us. We tried trade agreements, cultural exchanges, joint scientific missions. The Concorde dismissed us as a pre-standard species not worth full negotiation." He paused. "So, I'd like to revisit the terms of our membership in the Galactic Concorde. Full sovereignty, no colonial oversight, equal voting rights in the Assembly, and an acknowledgement that Earth's biosphere, all of it, the parts you can see and the parts you can't, falls under human diplomatic protection." Zorath looked out at the Leviathans hanging in space like living continents, patient as geology, and he felt something he had not felt in 300 years of service. He felt small. "And if we refuse?" he asked, though he already knew. "Then Chloe and I go back down into the water," Eli said simply. And we asked them a different question. The treaty was signed 6 days later. Chloe stood at the deep channel relay station on Kepler 4D and pressed her palm to the transmitter. The signal went down into the dark, translated into harmonics and magnetic pulses, delivered to something vast and patient and old as time. "Thank you," she sent. "We didn't need them to fight, just to be seen." The reply came slowly, the way all deep things move slowly. But it came, resonating up through the hull of the station, through the soles of her boots, through her bones. It translated, roughly, as, "We know. We have always known. That is why we said yes." Chloe smiled and looked up at the stars, at a galaxy that had just learned what every creature on Earth had understood for millions of years. Humanity was not the apex predator of their world. They were just the ones the apex predators had chosen to protect.